War crime cover-ups, MRI cover-ups, a war cabinet assembling to possibly launch an invasion of Venezuela, Trump pardoning one of the biggest narco drug traffickers who's currently serving 45 years in a federal prison. You have Donald Trump making erratic posts on Thanksgiving, calling people like Governor Walz the R word. You have Republican state legislators in Indiana pushing back and standing up against Trump, saying they will not let him rig the Indiana maps. You have Donald Trump's New Jersey United States Attorney, Alina Habba, being declared an unlawful New Jersey United States attorney. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals said you should have left a long time ago. You have Donald Trump selling out Zelensky to Russia, Donald Trump selling out Taiwan and Japan to Xi Jinping of China. We didn't start the fire, but we will report on it as well here on the MeidasTouch Network and the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Brett and Jordy. Brothers, how are you doing? We've got a lot to discuss.
We got a lot to discuss, so I pretty much want to get into it, but I just want to say at the top, I think what we are witnessing right now shows you the unraveling of this regime, the unraveling of Trump. I think finally we are actually starting to see people actually look past this administration and understand that there could very well be consequences for their action if they go along with the illegal acts of this regime. And you see a regime here that continues to lie and double down on its lies and dig itself further and further and further into their criminality, into their unethical behavior, their illegal activities. We're going to expose it all right here on this show. Jordy, what's the latest on your end?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas? Mighty excited to be there. Happy holidays, everybody. Really pumped to get into tonight's show. Real quick, hey, hit subscribe. We're on our way fast to 6 million subscribers here at the MeidasTouch YouTube channel, the MeidasTouch Network. So hit subscribe, and thank you very much. It's totally free and plug you into all the content. Benji, where are we starting off with today, big bro?
Let's just start off with that disastrous press conference by Caroline Leavitt, where they admitted the Trump regime did to the war crimes being committed off the coast of Venezuela, but tried to claim that it was an admiral and SEAL Team 6 that was engaged in it. Here's Caroline Leavitt when she was asked by a reporter, does the administration deny that a second strike happened of one of the boats that the United States blew up off the coast of Venezuela and then killed the survivors based on Hegseth's order? Watch what she says here. Play this clip.
Does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration,
No, the previous administration, Biden. Then a reporter follows up. So Admiral Bradley, that's the one you're saying Bradley did it and he ordered SEAL Team 6 to do this? Here, play this clip.
So that's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy with respect to the last, and it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.
So to be clear, to clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
And a separate question, the president several days ago.
And we know he was not well within his authority, or no one was in their authority in that chain of command to do so. If you just look at the manual from the Department of Defense, if you look at the War Crimes Tribunal edicts, if you look at the Geneva Convention, if you look at the Rome Treaty, you can't, first off, the entire operation, let's be clear, is unlawful. The entire thing is a war crime. You can't just say we're at war with narco drug traffickers. That's very much like Putin saying we're doing denazification invasion of Ukraine, and that's why we're doing that, okay? Just because you say it doesn't make it so, and that's exactly what Trump is doing. He's mirroring Putin's denazification, but using narco drug trafficking. And by the way, Donald Trump tried to do that with Canada as well, 51st state. They're doing narco drug trafficking there, and they're bringing the fentanyl in. But then secondarily, the second strike is clearly a war crime as well. These are survivors of an initial strike. They're helpless at sea. Clear war crime. It's not even a close call right now. So then another reporter's like, am I hearing this right? By the way, exactly what I was thinking as I was watching the press conference. I said, are they admitting to the war crime, but just now saying Admiral Bradley did it and SEAL Team 6 did it, and it was well within their authority, but trying to distance Hegseth and Trump from it? Here, play this clip as another reporter asks. Let's play it.
Today.
I was going to
great mind
at yours. Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
So just to be clear, to clarify on Jackie and Gabe, did Admiral Bradley order that second strike because there were still survivors after the initial strike?
Again, as I read for you, Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law. He directed the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat of narco-terrorists to the United States was completely eliminated.
So was the initial order from Secretary Hegseth, everyone be killed, and did that come from President Trump?
I saw that quoted in a Washington Post story. I would reject that the Secretary of War ever said that. However, the president has made it quite clear that if narco-terrorists, again, are trafficking illegal drugs towards the United States, he has the authority to kill them. And that's what this administration is doing.
War crimes. Brett, Jordy, we'll talk about as that press conference continued. They then talk about Donald Trump's MRI, and they show a doctor note from a DO, not someone who's qualified to be looking at MRIs and providing results like that. We'll get to that in a moment, but clear war crimes, and you see what they're trying to do as well and distance Hegseth and Trump from it, Brett.
In all respects, they say the cover-up is worse than the crime. Well, here you have a pretty bad crime and a pretty bad cover-up, and the cover-up is making it even worse. And even her denials, it doesn't even look like Caroline Leavitt's heart is in it when she's saying all these things. And she's saying things also that have already been disproven. By the way, I do got to give a shout out to some of this great reporting that we've seen from some of these reporters. Like the Washington Post beat on these strikes has been excellent. We've seen great reporting from Wall Street Journal lately, from Bloomberg lately. In that room today, you actually saw journalists having each other's back for once and asking the questions that needed to be asked and being relentless with getting these answers out of the White House. So as much as I complain about the legacy media, I also got to give them props when they're doing a good job. And we finally saw that today. I like to think that independent media is pushing the ball forward here, but it's great to see that happening. But right now, the White House is caught in an absolute mess. These are severe war crimes. And let's face it, we're not at war here. So in other words, what we witness is just murder. This is just the White House conducting extrajudicial murders, just making up their own justifications for it. And they just lie. And remember, just over the past few days, the denials that the White House has put out about these strikes, the denials with the White House spokespeople getting out there and saying, this entire narrative is false. It's all BS. I can't believe the fake news Washington Post would write this. And then today they're like, oh yeah, no, we did it. And Admiral Bradley did it actually. Yeah, that's right. And you could see she's trying to have it kind of all ways too. She's like, Admiral Bradley did this. He did the order, but he was authorized to do the order by Hegseth, but Hegseth didn't give the order, but he authorized the order. It's like, what is it? Okay. And that's one of the issues when you kind of get lost in your own lies, that you just continue to double down on lies and you sound like a complete fraud because you are a complete fraud. We don't even have to look at secret conversations of what Pete Hegseth might have said, this kind of kill them all order. Pete Hegseth basically says things like that on his social media feed every single day. How many times have you heard Pete Hegseth go, total lethality, we need to kill everybody, lethal. These are war. This is everything that they speak about. But all we've seen is Pete Hegseth take this Department of Defense and turn it not into the Department of War, but into the Department of War Crimes. And I think today, as we see all of this unfolding, that video that these 6 Democratic lawmakers made, where they warned members of the military not to follow unconstitutional and unlawful orders. Think about the visceral reaction that this White House, almost like an antibody-like reaction, the White House had to that video where they accused those people of sedition. Now think about all the people in the U.S. military who would be protected if they followed those Democratic lawmakers' advice. They would be wise to do so. Right now, Admiral Bradley is in a precarious situation by going along with these orders from the Trump administration, and everybody involved right now in these clearly illegal attacks should be lawyering up. They should be getting ready because, as I said earlier on, this Trump administration ain't going to last forever, and there will be consequences one day for these actions.
The regime at the end of the day is only looking out for one person and one person only, and that person is Donald Trump. That's it. And so just how quickly Caroline Leavitt is up there just throwing Admiral Bradley straight under the bus. You know, she was excited to let everyone know that it was Admiral Bradley. And just to see her up there, I mean, even the way she speaks, and Ben, I'll toss it to you. We'll keep going on with this press conference here. But like, I just want our audience to focus, like the tone in which she's giving her responses are just very North Korean-esque. And it's just very disturbing to see from the perspective that this is the United States of America. And this is who we have up there right now. It's bizarre and it's upsetting. And quite frankly, it's scary, Ben.
You know, just while we're mentioning her, let's also remember that the mother of her nephew, her brother's, the person who her brother was in a relationship with, who they had a baby with together, was rounded up, right, by ICE and Border Patrol and thrown into one of these detention center concentration camps. And the response by Caroline Leavitt and the White House was to lie and defame the mother of Caroline Leavitt's own nephew and say that she had no relationship with the nephew and very distant and was not a good person and that she was a criminal, and all of that stuff was false. These are the types of people that we're dealing with. People like Donald Trump, who alone in a room at midnight on Thanksgiving was calling people the R word. Like, we just have to remember sometimes these are evil and bad people, and we have to treat them and reflect on it as such. And they cover up and lie about everything. I mean, just take a look at this right here. The next question Caroline Leavitt was asked about was Donald Trump's MRI, because the press, I think, was doing a good job here. We've been calling out Trump's health forever, and we've been doing deep dives. We've talked about Trump's father, Fred, having Alzheimer's. We've done analyses about how the type of Alzheimer's Fred has runs in Trump's family, how Fred was diagnosed in his 80s, and then it was rapid deterioration once the diagnosis was made, how Trump feared that he would get Alzheimer's the way his dad did. That's kind of how his dad died as well, of pneumonia. But secondary to the dementia and Alzheimer's, this runs in Trump's family. And one of the reasons why you would have an MRI, I'm not saying that this is why Trump has an MRI, but why you're doing MRIs and cognitive tests so frequently is the reason why Fred had to do cognitive tests so frequently. And one of the reasons you would do MRIs very frequently is because you have Alzheimer's or the onset of it, and you need to monitor it, and you're taking potentially experimental therapies to try to slow down the onset. I'm not saying that that's what it is here, but when Donald Trump says it's not my brain because I keep doing cognitive tests, not my brain, you know what I mean, cognitive tests I do, it's weird that you keep doing cognitive exams. That would only be consistent with somebody who's got a serious brain issue, whether it's dementia, you know, Alzheimer's, you know, something of that caliber, Brett. That's why you would do. Do we have the clip? Let's show the clip first of Trump on Air Force One heading back from Mar-a-Lago, where he was vacationing since last Tuesday. I mean, by the way, the photos of Trump at Mar-a-Lago, I mean, the guy doesn't look there. Like, you see his face and he doesn't look, and it's a serious matter. I mean, the guy looks, compare the way former President Biden looked on the same day on Thanksgiving, the way Trump looked while they were both eating. And it should be noted that Donald Trump has a placard when he eats right now in his cafeteria at the country club where he lives, which is weird also, that says his name on it. And it says 45, like as though he needs to know who he is. Like, what could you imagine just me going to eat and then it just saying Ben Meiselas, like wherever I eat?
Yeah, at your house, but Ben Meiselas, MeidasTouch Podcast host.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm at my house. It's at his house. Okay, let me just show you Trump on the airplane being asked about the MRIs. Here, play this clip.
They asked about my MRI. MRIs are very,
Governor Walz actually to release the MRI records.
Will you tell us what what it was
Governor
for?
Walz, you mean the incompetent Governor Walz? So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect.
What were they
It's like
looking
my
for?
phone call where I got impeached. It's absolutely perfect. So if you want to hear about it or if you want to release it, you want to have it released?
Yes,
News Nation,
please.
failing News Nation.
No, sir, we're not failing.
News Nation is doing lousy, by the way. But if you want to have it released, I'll release it.
Please, can you tell us what they were looking at?
For what, releasing?
No. What part of your body was the MRI looking
I
at?
have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing. Goodbye, everybody. You too.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Do you see the face for our audio listeners?
Yeah.
Go watch on YouTube. The face of the female reporters who asked that question after he attacked them and said, "You're failing at News Nation," and then told the other reporter that you would fail the cognitive test. Their face was like, this was like gross. Like they're covering like a grotesque monster of a human being. And they're like, what the hell did we even just watch?
And Ben, just think about over the past like week or so alone, all the incidents of Donald Trump snapping at reporters, all the incidents of Donald Trump using slurs, him yelling at female reporters in particular and calling them piggy or calling them ugly or snapping and saying they're failing. Like Trump has always had an element like that, but we are seeing that at a heightened state right now, which I think also speaks to his deteriorating mental state as we're all kind of watching this play. And I also want you to just take notice of Donald Trump's answer right there about his MRI. So he says his MRI is as perfect as the phone call that got him impeached. As we all know, obviously not a perfect phone call. So that right there is pretty incriminating. I'm already thinking, oh, that must have been a pretty devastating MRI if he's comparing it to the phone call that got him impeached. So this is a bad MRI to begin with. And he also says he has no idea what the doctors were looking at. Also very peculiar. If you got an MRI, if you went to the doctor to get something checked out, I think you would have a sense that, oh, they're looking at my brain, they're looking at my heart, they're looking at a broken bone, whatever it is, you would know why you're going to the doctor. I think that is kind of like a big thing. And then Donald Trump says he doesn't think it could be his brain. It's not his brain. Why? Because he aced a test that's meant to detect if people have dementia symptoms. So you put all that together, it just doesn't quite add up in a way that's completely flattering for Donald Trump here. And I think it actually says a lot more than he intended to actually say, even if you just like answered the question honestly. But this is the issue with this administration, and it's the issue with Caroline Leavitt and everybody. They have zero credibility is giving them too much credit. They have negative credibility. They lie about every single thing, and then they try to blame everything on the people asking them the questions rather than just be honest with the American people. And inevitably, it makes the situation worse for them. It made it worse for them with the Epstein files. Now it's making it worse for them with the MRI and questions about Donald Trump's health. It's made it worse for them with the whole situation right now about these extrajudicial murders that are being taken place near Venezuela. Every time they try to lie about all of this stuff, they inevitably make it worse and worse and worse because there are more questions that are left over than answers that they are giving. And it's really just causing them to spiral. It is the unraveling in real time of the administration.
And when you look at Donald Trump giving that response, it's becoming quite a theme here of him continuing to snap at reporters. Not that he didn't before, but now the occurrence is happening quite frequently. And when you actually take a step back, the question was completely legitimate. She wasn't attacking him. She didn't say it in any quote unquote mean tone or any ridiculous thing like that. She just said, hey, are you going to release, you're the president of the United States. You got an MRI. Are you going to release that to the American people? That was essentially it. Paraphrasing. That was it. And he snapped, like totally went off, did the whole stupid failing News Nation thing again. But then is it just any question he gets like, oh, Donald Trump, why aren't you so great at golf? He's just going to react like a baby? And half of the country is going to say that's an acceptable way for the president to react, because that's absolutely insane what we all just watched. Like absolutely insane when you actually take a step back and realize, oh no, that's the president. So my whole thing too is, look, if the Epstein files would have exonerated Donald Trump, those would have been released immediately. If the MRI results were as perfect as Donald Trump claims they are, he would have released those immediately, and not in some weirdo roundabout way in which he went on to do so. My biggest thing where I'm fearful here for the country long term, I'm saying post the Trump presidency and whatnot, is just how Donald Trump has delegitimized that position, the president of the United States, and what that really stands for, and how the American people could actually look at that figure as a trustworthy figure. And I'm not saying every other administration was a squeaky clean, take them at their word type of administration, but this is a different beast, man. And it's going to take a lot of rebuilding as we go forward here to actually have some faith in the office of president.
The presidency used to be a position of dignity, though we may certainly disagree with the office holder almost always, with some exceptions in history, treated the office with dignity, respect, and historical reflection for our constitutional traditions and the role of America in the world. Donald Trump has not treated the office with dignity. He's treated the office with pure contempt and degradation. He's destroyed and demolished a beautiful office, so much so that Thanksgiving, we can't expose our children to his words because his words are so explicit and disgusting that the mere sound of it is not something that we can have our children hear. And if you say, well, you're being hyperbolic, then, well, when he opened his mouth on Thanksgiving, it was to call a governor the R word. When we come back, though, I want to talk about what Caroline Leavitt said in response, went to the question about Trump getting an MRI. I also want to show you the BS report, which was a doctor's note from an osteopath, and why that note to me gives the roadmap of what I believe is really going on here. And then we're going to talk more about Donald Trump pardoning a narco-terrorist. We'll talk about Donald Trump pardoning a corporate fraud or giving this individual a commutation. We'll talk about that and much more. A reminder, join the MeidasTouch YouTube channel and become a member and gift memberships to others. We're in the home stretch of this year. Thanks to your help, we've grown this independent media platform, and we want to keep on growing it. And make sure you subscribe. We need a big subscriber push this month of December to try to get 6 million subscribers this month. It's not going to be easy, but we may be able to achieve it with your help. Let's take we'll take our first break of the show, but then we'll have much more show to go. Not quite the last break yet. Let's take our first break of the show.
My old wallet used to be this giant crusty leather brick that was falling apart. My back even began to hurt because I was sitting so uneven. This is why I switched over to Ridge, and you should too. Ridge is unique, slim, modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash. It's made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. Ridge comes in over 50 plus colors and styles to choose from, and all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. Also, it gives me peace of mind knowing that Ridge wallets have RFID blocking technology, keeping you safe from those digital pickpocketers. Ridge also has over 100,000 5-star reviews. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all their products. For a limited time, Ridge is having their huge Black Friday sale. Head to RIDGE.com to get up to 47% off your order. This is by far the biggest discount they've given all year. That's Ridge.com for up to 47% off your order during their biggest sale of the year. After the purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know MeidasTouch sent you. Now that the days are short and crisp, I find myself craving comforting, home-cooked meals. Home Chef makes it easy with their oven-ready options and hearty recipes that hit the spot without me stressing over what's for dinner. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Home Chef makes cooking simple, fresh food delivered, easy recipes to follow, and meals that actually taste great. And now with Gordon Ramsay's exclusive recipes on the Home Chef menu, you can enjoy 5-star meals without the stress. Choose from Gordon Ramsay's co-branded dishes featured across Home Chef's culinary collection, classic meal kits, and express options, each crafted to make you feel like a chef in your own kitchen. Whatever kind of day it is, classic recipes with fresh ingredients, 30-minute meals, oven-ready trays, or quick microwave options, Home Chef has you covered. There's even a dedicated family menu for hassle-free delicious dinners. And it's not one size fits all. Home Chef has over 30 meal options each week with choices for different diets and tastes. Plus, it's affordable. Home Chef customers have an average of $86 per month on groceries. Now, I love Home Chef. I can't recommend it strongly enough. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box plus free desserts for life. Go to homechef.com/Meidas. That's homechef.com/Meidas for 50% off your first box and free desserts for life. homechef.com/Meidas. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Let's talk about Caroline Leavitt's response when she was asked about what Trump said about his MRI. Here's what Caroline Leavitt says. Let's play this clip.
Danny, follow up on the MRI because President Trump yesterday said that he would release the results of his MRI. Is that happening right now?
It is happening right now. As part of, and this is a summary from the president's physician, and we will release it right now. I think my team has it teed up for all of you. I'll read it for you, and then you'll get it physically as well. As part of President Trump's comprehensive executive physical, advanced imaging was performed because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. The purpose of this imaging is preventative, to identify any issues early, confirm overall health, and ensure the president maintains long-term vitality and function. President Trump's cardiovascular imaging was perfectly normal. No evidence of arterial narrowing impairing blood flow or abnormalities in the heart or major vessels. The heart chambers are normal in size, the vessel walls appear smooth and healthy, and there are no signs of inflammation or clotting. Overall, his cardiovascular system shows excellent health. His abdominal imaging is...
So that's not an MRI report. Treat me like I'm stupid. Okay? You just had an osteopath. No offense to osteopaths, but they're not the ones who conduct these MRIs or would be someone who could be analyzing dementia or things like that. But just so you see, it's a DO, Sean P. Barabella. This is the same guy who did a report back in April and said that Trump's health was evidenced by the fact that he wins golf tournaments, which he doesn't win the golf tournaments, but that's who we're dealing with, who's writing these notes right here. We know Donald Trump has a history of writing these notes for the doctors. We remember we reported on Trump's prior doctors who said that Trump would write these notes for him. I'm not suggesting that he did this, but we know that as well. Brett and Jordy and Meidas Mighty, what part of the body was missing from that report? Did you notice that they talked about abdominal and cardiovascular, but you notice what they said did not. They did an MRI just on the abdomen. So if you were going to do a preventative MRI in general of the whole body, which you're not supposed to do, and anyone in the medical field will tell you this is not a normal thing to do, especially at this degree of frequency. Just doesn't. It's not what happens. But why wouldn't you then do the brain? Why wouldn't you just did the abdomen? Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but notice that that was missing from the report. So I'll just say that, Brett and Jordy.
Also, I immediately reached out to some of our contacts in the medical community and I said, does this sound normal to you? Just a simple question. Objectively, does this sound normal to you? And unanimously, they said, no, absolutely not. I've never heard of such a thing in my entire medical career. Mainly, the most glaring thing right there, aside from the glaring omission that they didn't talk at all about Donald Trump's brain in these tests, which have been the focus of all the attention. They completely omitted that part, is the concept that you don't just do preventative MRIs. It's not a thing. It's what all the doctors told me. I've never heard of a preventative MRI. That's not a thing that exists. And that came back in each message that I sent. So take it for what you will. But, this goes back to what I was saying before. They just lie. These people don't even have zero credibility. They have negative credibility. They lie to cover their lies. It's this Russian nesting doll of lies. I guess pun intended. I don't know. But they dig themselves into these deep holes and then they keep on digging, which only leads to more questions here. And now I think after seeing this bizarre letter that they had released clearly after days and if not weeks of attention focused on this issue and Caroline Leavitt getting up there, like to me, I have so many more questions now about what the heck is going on. And here at the MeidasTouch Network, we're going to continue to speak to medical experts about what they think is happening here, them reading in between the lines of these doctor statements, and hopefully get some more of these folks on the network so that you could hear from them directly, because I think this is a very important topic right now that the White House is trying to cover up.
1000%. And this is rhetorical, brothers. You don't have to answer me. Mighty Smarty, you can answer me in the chat. And I'm not gonna do the tone here because I don't feel like getting canceled on a Monday night and a Tuesday morning. But when you listen to Caroline Leavitt up there, the only thing you could think of is this is a North Korean press conference. That's it. That is the only thing you could think of as she reads this roundabout medical report about Donald Trump and his quote unquote preventative MRI. What does that even mean? Preventative MRI. I mean, like the words that this administration, this regime comes up with are just truly insane. And they just expect you. They expect you and they demand their followers just say, oh, okay. Oh, that's enough. Oh, okay. That's what that's what they expect. And that's what they demand of the MAGA cult. And if anyone were to raise their hand and be like, hey, this is strange, right? All of a sudden you're a suppressive person. And you're out of the MAGA cult. But that's why it's all just so upsetting to me, because I truly, at the end of it, like I don't view what we do here as that political. Like I just want to get the country back to be friggin' normal for our kids, for the next generations of kids to come after us. Like this country's fucking awesome when it's working at its peak. But ultimately, when you have someone like Donald Trump at the head of this, this country with his regime and all of these puppets and MAGA folk, it's really upsetting what it all has become. Because then all of a sudden you get a Caroline Leavitt up there just spewing North Korean style propaganda and making us all look like fools.
When Donald Trump was on Air Force One and he said he was going to release the MRI reports, but he didn't know what body part it was done on, my initial reaction is, are they going to have that osteopath Barbarella guy do another summary and treat us like we're stupid and say, this is the MRI report? And that's what they said. Here it is, everybody. And it's also like when they say that prices are down and that Thanksgiving was cheaper and that everybody's doing better. It's like, to some extent, we've all had some experience, I think, with an MRI, or at least know somebody in our life, 1 degree or 2 degrees of separation, who's had an MRI where we can ask, like, hey, did you know what body part it was on? And is it so when they show us this, and this it's Caroline Leavitt, 27-year-old propagandist, she's like, actually, I got the report. It is. Let me read it for you. Donald Trump is doing I'll get canceled. Donald Trump is doing super healthy, and he is so strong. And this was preventative, and so he's perfectly okay. Next question. Your fake regime, your state TV, you're liars, you're this, you're that. I mean, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Jordy, to your point, this isn't a Democrat, Republican, independent, red state, blue state, purple state. You didn't show me the MRI report, okay? All you just did was just give me some BS and think that I'm stupid enough to oh, well, that settles it. There it is. No further questions, Your Honor. Caroline Leavitt just read to me an osteopath saying that Donald Trump had a preventative MRI for his cardiovascular health like everybody in his age group does. Just stop treating us like we're stupid. And I think this is also why you're seeing a lot of Republicans also look at this and say, I can't support this anymore. I can't do it. Which is the next question from state regime media Fox. And this reporter's asking, hey, don't you think you're harming the message that you're trying to get Republicans to say about like going after narco terrorists, when then you're like saying that Juan Orlando Hernandez, who you just pardoned as a narco terrorist, is a good guy? Like, don't you think you're hurting the messages here? Do we have this one of this Fox reporter, Brett Aston? Let's play it.
Conflict. And then on this pardon for the Honduran president, does it at all undercut the administration's messaging while you have these congressional Republicans defending the strikes on the narco terrorists and then a pardon for a convicted drug trafficker? Does that make it more difficult for your members to defend your administration's policy? I don't think so, Jackie. I think that President Trump has been quite clear in his defense of the United States homeland to stop these illegal narcotics from coming to our borders, whether that's by land or by sea. And he's also made it quite clear that he wants to correct the wrongs of the weaponized Justice Department under the previous administration. And Ouija, I'll call on you because I think we're wearing matching blazers today.
I think we're wearing matching blazers today. So I'm just going to speak like a robot and say that the Biden administration was weaponized in prosecuting one of the biggest narco drug trafficking terrorists out there, the former president of Honduras, who was responsible by his own admission of sticking the drugs up the gringo's nose, to use his word, working with the Sinaloa cartel to kill Americans. In a federal court, there was a conviction. You have no evidence. You're not going to be able to tell us anything contrary to the actual evidence that was introduced in a court, but we're wearing the same blazer today. I mean, again, horrific. So then another reporter asks another question about this and says, well, doesn't this also undercut Trump's pretext to invade Venezuela? That Trump is saying that just because Juan Orlando Hernandez was the president of Honduras, that doesn't make him responsible for the drug dealers who are in Honduras. Isn't your whole point about Venezuela what you've just pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez for? That he's the president, so he's responsible for the drug dealers in Venezuela. Here, play this clip.
Question. The president several days ago said it was his intention to pardon the former president of Honduras, who was a convicted drug trafficker. And yesterday on Air Force One, the president said that if someone sells drugs in that country, that doesn't mean you arrest the president and put him in jail for the rest of his life. How is that different than what the administration is accusing Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro of?
You're cherry picking the president's statement a little bit yesterday, as he also said yesterday the people of Honduras have highlighted to him how the former president Hernandez was set up. This was a clear Biden over prosecution. He was the president of this country. He was in the opposition party. He was opposed to the values of the previous administration, and they charged him because he was president of Honduras. There were some other egregious facts that came out during this trial, and I would encourage you to report on them. His court-appointed lawyer was only given 3 weeks to prepare for trial. He shared that his conviction was lawfare by the leftist party, who, quote, struck a deal with the Biden-Harris administration. Hernandez has highlighted there was virtually no independent evidence presented, and many of his conviction was based on testimony from many admitted criminals who hoped that cooperating would reduce their own penalties. So the president heard the concerns from many people, as he does, and he's, of course, within his constitutional authority to sign clemency for whomever he deems worthy.
Okay, so why don't you show me the evidence then? If you think that there was evidence in a federal proceeding that was defective, that was false, of course the criminal defendant is going to say it was unfair. That's one of the things that she cites. She goes, the drug dealer, it might as well be saying, El Chapo said they went after Chapo, and he said it was unfair.
I mean, Ben, they use Ghislaine Maxwell as a character witness for Donald Trump. So let's center ourselves on who we're dealing with here.
Right. And then they said a lot of the witnesses against him were drug dealers. That's the way these trials work. How do you think you gain evidence? Usually in the past, you'd cultivate sources and informants and not kill them to go after the ringleader. You'd cultivate the sources and arrest them. And then a jury and a judge can decide if these people have credibility. So just to say it was Biden striking a deal with the leftists. Okay, so that's just your explanation for everything. Also, there was another pardon that was issued as well by Donald Trump that's not getting as much attention, of this guy Gentile, sentenced to I think 7 to 10 years in prison, and Trump pardoned him after 7 days, who was involved in like $1 billion fraud scheme as well. And Trump just pardoned this guy, private equity, pardon this guy. And so I think we see the pattern here. While Trump will, any oligarchs, top people who are involved in the crimes, cartel bosses, Donald Trump empathized with. Everybody else, Donald Trump says they're the problems right there. Right. Oh, and I'll just mention this as well, to round out this segment, especially as we talk about the war crimes that were committed and the Trump regime's attack on journalism. So you have Laura Loomer, right-wing extremist. You don't get much more extremist than like Laura Loomer. So she now works where? In the Pentagon. She's one of the main Pentagon reporters, and she posted on social media that the Washington Post used to occupy this desk inside the Pentagon press room. Now it's mine. So Pete Hegseth also, who's posting these cartoons right now about Franklin killing people on fishing boats, and that's what Pete Hegseth's making jokes about the war crimes. The press that's in there, Jordy, Brett, and Jordy, to your point, now looks even worse than North Korea press at this point. It's like the lowest of the low regime media.
And these people like really only show up. Like a Laura Loomer really only shows up for the photo op, and she posts it, she gets her likes, and then she's like never even there again. They're making a complete mockery of all of our institutions or all of our systems of journalism. And I want to just add one other little issue to this entire Trump regime argument about the Honduran president. And just how brazen do you have to be to pardon the guy who was convicted of conspiring to bring in 400 tons of cocaine into the United States as you were using this whole drug idea as your predicate for conducting these bombings at sea? It just shows you that this is not what it's about at all. It completely flies in the face of all their arguments. But let me show you this message that was posted by a Republican, by a conservative writer. This guy's name is Ed Whelan. He writes for the NRO. It's a very conservative publication. And he said the following: some hilarious details to add to Trump's outlandish pardon of convicted drug trafficker and former Honduran president Juan Orlando Hernandez. Then federal prosecutor Emil Bovee led the investigation of Hernandez and prosecuted his brother. When Bovee resigned to go into private practice, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele taunted that Bovee's departure, with Bukele depicted as a firing, showed that the United States was on the side of drug traffickers and was not serious about justice. Bukele's taunt applies much better to Trump's pardon of Hernandez. And then he posts Nayib Bukele's message, which I believe is from 2019, where he says the government of the United States has just dismissed the prosecutor who imprisoned Hernandez's brother for drug trafficking. Then they say they are worried about justice in our countries. It is evident which side they are on, and it is not the side of our people. For those of you who don't know, Emil Bovee literally was in the Department of Justice, went there, ended up working in Donald Trump's legal team. He worked for Donald Trump as his lawyer, was then given a position by Donald Trump in the administration, is now what? He was just confirmed as a judge, right? Emil Bovee. He's Trump's guy. Trump's guy prosecuted the case. So all of this, lawfare this, Democrat that, leftist this, it was literally your personal lawyer who you brought into the government and you made a judge. That individual was the person who prosecuted the Honduran president's brother and presided over the prosecution of the former Honduran president. That's who they're trying to say is the Biden weaponized justice system, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, these people have no credibility. They are full of crap. And all Donald Trump is using this for, he's trying to interfere like in the Honduran elections. There's probably favors being exchanged here, all this other corrupt stuff happening behind the scenes. But you see how Donald Trump's kind of claim and this administration's claim to morality and the way in which they weaponize it as well in order to conduct illegal acts, illegal killings, murders, to do whatever they want, to round people up here at home, to arrest legal citizens and hold them in confinement. They will make up any reasoning that they want in order to justify their illegal behavior. It's very similar to what Russia does. Jordy, like you said, it's very similar to what North Korea does. Remember how ridiculous it sounded back in the day when we would speak about how Russia's justification for invading Ukraine was that they had to just denazify Ukraine. They were being the good guys. Denazification. We're the good guys here. We have to go into Ukraine. It threatens us that they are this Nazi regime. Let's forget about the fact that Zelensky Zelensky is literally Jewish, running the country. But no, we need to denazify the country. The same way Putin makes that stuff up in order to commit mass atrocities, that's exactly what Donald Trump, Caroline Leavitt, Pete Hegseth, and everybody in this administration is doing every single day. And it's going to take Republicans stepping up as well, in addition to the Democrats, to call out this regime, to call for hearings, to call for investigations, to demand people like Pete Hegseth resign, to try to impeach Pete Hegseth, to try to impeach Donald Trump. We're going to need the full weight of the government. We're going to need people to step up. The good news is, while I don't think we're going to see all of that from Republicans, is you do start to see the cracks forming. You are, as we've been reporting on over these past few weeks, finally, you are starting to see Republicans actually break from this regime, whether they are Republicans in states like Indiana, who are saying absolutely not to Trump's attempt to gerrymander the state, or whether you're seeing it in all these kind of, no matter how big or small in ways, you're starting to see people start to actually look past the regime of Donald Trump into the future, into a world where Trump does not exist, and to say, how are we going to fit into that paradigm once that hits? Donald Trump's approval rating is at record lows. I think every single poll we've seen over the past few weeks, you see, oh, there's a new Gallup poll. Trump is at his lowest ever, 36%. There's a new poll from this organization. He's at his lowest ever, 33%. And when you also dig into the polls, you're seeing even amongst Republicans and people who voted for Donald Trump, you were seeing people sour on him. He is incredibly unpopular. And finally, people in power are starting to wake up to that fact. I think that's also, by the way, why you're seeing like a Jamie Dimon actually say, no, we ain't getting involved in that ballroom. Absolutely not. I mean, think about what the next DOJ is going to do to any of these companies that are involved in the ballroom. We're not going to get involved in any activities that could constitute bribery. Like, that's a pretty big deal for one of Wall Street's favorite CEOs to be saying in public like that. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of that right now as the weakness of this regime becomes more and more apparent.
At what point does the regime, does Caroline Leavitt, does Donald Trump, do they stop blaming Biden? And it's rhetorical because
Never.
No need to answer it because they won't. They will never not blame former President Biden for all of their problems. But it's just, it's so rich coming from the GOP, the pull yourself up by your bootstrap party, the party that controls all three branches of government, to try and find a heel, to try and find a scapegoat, to try and just pin this on someone else. It can't be their fault. No way. Even though they have all the pay, none of this could be their fault ever. And I just think that's why, Brett, to your point, the Trump approval rating is just in such, the shitter right now. And will just continue to get lower and lower, quite frankly, because I think finally it took some time here, but that other half of the country is now waking up to the fact that, oh, this guy, the orange guy. Yeah, he's not in it for me. He really doesn't give a shit about me, actually, at the end of the day. My Thanksgiving wasn't cheaper. Prices aren't going down. Gas is more expensive. Like, he doesn't care about me. And so I hate that's what it takes for folks to wake up and realize it, for it to become so personalized to them in that way, to finally open their eyes. But if that's what it's going to take, then that's what it's taking. And it's just, the whole thing is just friggin' banana land to me, Ben.
Right. I mean, it takes, for example, Donald Trump using the R word, and then a Indiana state legislator says, my second daughter has Down syndrome, and because you're now using that word and you've used it before, you're hurting me, so I can't support you anymore, and I'm not going to support you trying to rig the maps in Indiana. Or you have another state senator saying, I was doxxed and I was swatted, and now I'm being impacted, and so I can't support this anymore. Or another Indiana Republican state senator saying, well, now you want to bring me to the White House and try to implicate me in your violations of the Hatch Act, which is a crime. I can't be implicated in that, and I don't want to be involved in that. I think we have to pull back, and as a country, we need to support each other, and it shouldn't be, oh, now that this impacts me, therefore I'm not with this person. I mean, because first, as we know, the old adage goes, first they come from this group and I wasn't part of that group, so I didn't do anything. Then they came for that group. I wasn't a part of that group, so I didn't do anything. Then they came for that group. I didn't do anything. And then they came for me, right? That's the way authoritarian regimes work. So it's important even if you're doing it for selfish reasons, that you get out ahead and you defend your fellow people living in this country, because they're going to eventually come for you. You're not immune to this. But I think we need to recognize what's the point of a country and what's the point of living with each other if we're just going to spend our lives hurting each other and inflicting pain. That's no way to live. And again, what I'm saying shouldn't be a Republican, Democrat, or independent thing. It should just be, we want to live in harmony with each other and help each other and live as best as we can under peaceful circumstances where everybody does well and everybody can be thriving together. I mean, that to me is not just American. I mean, to me, it's basic humanity, basic decency, basic morality. All right, when we come back, though, I want to talk about a few other things, especially tomorrow, or if you're listening to this on Tuesday, today, there is that major election in Tennessee, 7th Congressional District. It is a special election after MAGA Republican Congressmember Mark Green resigned his seat. It features a MAGA Republican running named Matt Van Epps versus a Democratic state Tennessee representative named Afton Bain. And this was a plus 22 Trump district that's now neck and neck. And Trump and MAGA are freaking out about the polls. So we'll talk about that. I also want to show you some of the response by the Democrats to what we're seeing here with these MAGA Republicans and more. Make sure you're subscribed to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. We're making a hard push to try to get 6 million subscribers. So please, if you can, subscribe. You may think you're subscribed, but maybe you aren't. So just double check, hit subscribe, and join the YouTube channel, become a member, and you can gift memberships to others as well who may not be able to afford a membership. Last break of the show. We'll be right back.
I've been using OneSkin for a little while now, and honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect at first, but I've been blown away. I started with their OS1 face moisturizer, and I could feel the difference almost immediately. My skin feels smoother, more hydrated, and just healthier overall. What really surprised me was how lightweight it is. It doesn't feel greasy or heavy, and it fits perfectly into my routine. I also really love how simple it's made things. Instead of juggling like a bunch of products, I could just use OneSkin and know that I'm getting everything I need in one step. At the core is their patented OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to target senescent cells, the root cause of wrinkles, crepiness, and loss of elasticity, all key signs of skin aging, and these results have now been validated in 5 different clinical studies. And now is the perfect time to try OneSkin because they just released their limited edition holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set. It's one of those rare gifts that's both impressive and genuinely useful, featuring their best-selling face moisturizer, their new peptide lip mask, and a cooling gua sha tool, all designed to work together as your body enters its natural nightly repair mode, helping renew skin at the cellular level for stronger, smoother, and more resilient skin. For a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using code Meidas at oneskin.co/Meidas. That's oneskin.co/MEIDAS. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
Ever have one of those moments where your body reminds you it's not 25 anymore? Maybe it's the slower recovery after a workout or the way your joints creak like an old floorboard. And don't get me started on how much worse it is in the winter. It's like my energy goes into hibernation. Aging is a reality for all of us, but our actions determine how we age. That's why I use Qualia Senolytic to help keep my cells healthy and my body feeling youthful. Zombie cells are real and they're aging you. These senescent cells stop being useful, but stick around, draining your energy, slowing recovery, and making you feel older than you are. Qualia Senolytic helps your body fight back against aging. It's a powerful, clinically tested formula with 9 vegan, plant-derived compounds that support your body's natural ability to eliminate zombie cells, so you can feel sharper, stronger, and more energized. Take it just 2 days a month. That's all it takes. Take Qualia Senolytic for just 2 days a month and start aging better at the cellular level. After adding Qualia Senolytic to my routine, I noticed a real difference. My energy feels steadier, recovery is quicker, and mentally I'm more dialed in. Experience the science of feeling younger. Go to qualialife.com/Meidas for up to 50% off your purchase and use code Meidas for an additional 15%. That's qualialife.com/Meidas for up to 50% off your purchase. Your older self will thank you. And thanks to Qualia for sponsoring this episode. Every business is asking the same question. How do we make AI work for us? The possibilities are endless and guessing is too risky. But sitting on the sidelines is not an option, because one thing is almost certain. Your competitors are already making their move. No more waiting. With NetSuite by Oracle, you can put AI to work today. NetSuite is the #1 AI cloud ERP trusted by over 43,000 businesses. It's a unified suite that brings your financials, inventory, commerce, HR, and CRM into a single source of truth. That connected data is what makes your AI smarter, so it doesn't just guess. It knows. It intelligently automates routine tasks, delivers actionable insights, helps you cut costs, and make fast AI-powered decisions with confidence. This isn't another bolted-on tool. It's AI built into the system that runs your business. Whether you're a company that earns millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you stay ahead of the pack. I use this and you should too. Right now, get our free business guide, Demystifying AI, at netsuite.com/Meidas. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/Meidas. netsuite.com/Meidas. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Let's talk about this election tomorrow on Tuesday, December 2nd, or today if you're watching this or listening to this on Tuesday, December 2nd. As I mentioned, Tennessee's 7th congressional district is holding a special election. This district is plus 22 Trump, but it's now within the margin of error. You have the Democratic candidate, Afton Bain. She's a Tennessee state representative. She's running against a guy named Matt Van Epps, the MAGA Republican candidate. This guy is just straight out of MAGA central casting. He loves the tariffs. He loves the ICE raids. Anything that Donald Trump does, he loves. He wants to cover up the Epstein files. I mean, quite literally, you were to put like AI, invent me a MAGA guy, okay? It's Matt Van Epps. And the question is even in the rubiest of ruby red congressional districts, because Tennessee, they've gerrymandered the crap out of these districts. They carve up areas of Nashville, like into different sections. They do everything they can to dilute the ability of Democrats to win there. But in this plus 22 Trump district, can a Democrat win? There's a possibility that I don't want to inject that opium into your veins. I mean, people should get out the word about this race and its importance. But you have MAGA Republicans kind of freaking out over the weekend and throughout the day. Trump making post after post. You know, we need you. We need you. Republicans, get out to vote. This guy's got my endorsement. This guy's the best. Go out. They're doing a call tonight that we're going to be doing a report on as well. And let me just show you what Don Jr.'s been saying. Here's Don Jr. Let's play it.
Okay. And guys, if you're in Tennessee and if you're in the 7th district, or you know someone in that district, or you even know someone in Tennessee who may be in that district, call them. Make sure they get out and vote. Our superpower as conservatives is to sit it out. To say we got what we wanted in the big one for president and we're going to sit everything else out. You may end up with this lunatic representing you. So Tennessee, call everyone you know. If you know someone in the 7th district, get out there and vote. Call them. Apathy will let this person be in charge.
Let me just share with you one of the ads that
I think I need to give a disclaimer first after watching that video. I want to be very clear that we did not edit that video. We did not speed it up. We did not alter his voice. That was exactly how Don Jr. posted it. I just want to be clear, because I know there will be people, he's speaking very quickly. His voice sounds a little higher. Why is he talking? I'll let you come up with the reasoning as to why you think Don Jr. is speaking like that. But I'm going to say that's just exactly how it was posted. Okay, here is the Afton Bain ad, one of the ads that she has released for her campaign. This is the Democrat running in Tennessee's 7th for the special election. Watch this.
I'm Afton Bain. We all know the system is rigged in Washington. Here's how it works. Politicians make it easy for their rich donors. Tax cuts for billionaires and burying the Epstein files. While hardworking Tennesseans get a rough ride by cutting health care for Tennessee families, doubling health insurance premiums, and tariffs that hurt our economy. I'm Afton Bain, and I approve this message. Vote early to shake up Washington.
While that's taking place, you have A lot of MAGA Republican Congress members resigning. 6 already have resigned. You have, and MAGA Republican Troy Nehls. You don't get much more MAGA than him. He resigned. He said he's going to serve out the remainder of the term, however, unlike Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's leaving the first week of January. Can we just show, Brett? I think we've got a video of Troy Nehls talking about healthcare and removing healthcare from people and how he describes it. I think we have this. Let's play it.
Can I ask you, though, about the CBO score and the idea that 11 million, 12 million Americans may lose
I don't have
health
any faith
insurance?
and confidence in the CBO. They're scoring. They're wrong half the damn time. I don't give any. No,
So you're
I'm not worried
at
about
all
the CBO.
You're not worried at all that Americans may lose their health care?
Oh, well, just some Americans that aren't Americans, and that is the illegals. Why should illegals be on Medicare? Shouldn't have it. We did a great job with it all. We did a great job. I appreciate it. The American people spoke. The American people spoke, and the elected representatives.
Yeah, these dudes are so weird. He's like at the top of the list too of like the kind of, when I say some of these people are freaks. I mean,
Right,
Troy Nehls is exhibit.
We
A.
just like contrast him to what Governor Walz said about Donald Trump on Thanksgiving. I mean, to me, again, this shouldn't be like a Democrat Republican. I mean, you just saw a MAGA Republican, Troy Nehls, and that's what most MAGA Republicans look and sound like. For those on audio, he's like smoking a cigar and like puffing the smoke in the
bizarre.
recorder. His hands have bandages on them, for reasons that are a little bit unclear. Brett, why don't you show Governor Walz here? Play this clip.
Oh, Governor, let me have you weigh in on this, because part of your initial response to President Trump's post was to call for him to release the results of his MRI. And I want to give you a chance to give our viewers exactly a sense of what you mean. What exactly were you suggesting by that, Governor?
Well, here we got a guy on Thanksgiving where we spent time with our families, we ate, we played Yahtzee, we cheered for football or whatever. This guy is apparently in a room ranting about everything else. This is not normal behavior. It is not healthy. And presidents throughout time have released a couple things. They've released their tax returns, not Donald Trump, and they've released their medical records, not Donald Trump. And look, the MRI is one thing, but I think what's most concerning about this is, as your viewers out there are listening, has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for, as he says? So look, it's clear the president's fading physically. I think the mental capacity, again, ranting, crazily at midnight on Thanksgiving about everything else. There's reasons for us to be concerned. This is a guy that randomly says the airspace over Venezuela is closed. He's ruminating on if you could win a nuclear war. Look, this is a serious position. It's the most powerful position in the world. And we have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. And at the same time, he's not solving any of the problems. So I'm deeply concerned that he is incapable of doing the job.
Powerful. I mean, I'll show you this other clip of Governor Walz right here as well about Trump using the R word. I think we've got it. Let's play it.
Look, Donald Trump insulting me is a badge of honor for me, but I think we all know, as both as an educator for a couple decades and as a parent, using that term is just so damaging. It's hurtful. We have fought 3 decades to get this out of our schools. Kids know better than to use it. But look, this is what Donald Trump has done. He's normalized this type of hateful behavior and this type of language. And mainly, look, at first, I think it's just because he's not a good human being. But secondly, to distract from his incompetency. We know we just came through a Thanksgiving where prices are up. We know people are concerned about heating their homes as we're experiencing blizzards out here. At the same time, he's cutting those programs. So, look, we cannot allow this to be normalized.
Can I just say this really quickly? That's Walz at his finest right there. For the life of me, why they walked away from that during the camp. We don't need to go back there and play Monday morning quarterback here, but for the life of me, why they walked
We're
away.
relitigating.
Yeah, but let's do it. Like that is Walz at his finest, and I just love
That's what got him the VP position. Then they like pulled it back, and I'm like, by the way, I still thought he was good on the campaign, but that's the superstar.
That's it right there. That's a superpower.
No, 100%. And I just want to, go back to, where we started this conversation with Afton Bain and this race in Tennessee. The very fact that we are even speaking about this race and that the Republicans are showing worry about this race shows you how devastating Donald Trump's term has been, not only to the country, of course, but to the entire Republican Party. He is taking down the entire party with him right now. They should not even have to think about a district that Donald Trump won by 22 points in November of 2024. But the polls are showing this thing neck and neck. Frankly, if Afton Bain even lost by 10, that would still be a reason for great concern for the Republicans. But the race could potentially be a lot closer than that. Afton Bain could in fact win this thing. I've heard from people on the ground that the energy for her campaign is very strong, that the energy against Van Epps' campaign is also very strong, that he doesn't really have any positive energy behind his campaign at all. And when you see the ads of the two campaigns also, it shows you that Democrats have finally found their message, not only in these special elections, but in the previous elections we saw and going into the midterms, that the issue of affordability, that actually dealing with the issues that people care about most right now is what needs to be focused on. When you watch the Van Epps commercials, and I'm not going to play them for you right here, but Van Epps is just like evil, radical, liberal, evil, radical, liberal, radical, radical. Bathrooms, trans, evil. And it's just like, ugh. I'm embarrassed. I'm quite frankly, I'm embarrassed watching them. Like they're hard to even watch. But you watch Afton Bain's ads, and they're all positive, right? They have really like two main themes. It's we need to make things more affordable for people. These prices are out of control, and we have Donald Trump like a madman out there cutting all of these programs that would make things cheaper for people, taking away people's SNAP, doing everything that he's doing, and release the Epstein files. Which is another thing that Van Epps has refused to commit on. He just kind of over and over says, I'll do whatever the speaker wants to do. I'll do whatever Donald Trump wants to do. And those aren't the answers that the American people want right now. And so now you're even seeing this in this deep red district in Tennessee. You're seeing people looking around and they're going, wait a second. They told me that they were going to make things better. Things are way worse right now. And my rights are being taken away. And they don't want to release the Epstein files. And everything that they ever claimed to be for, they bullshitted me on. Maybe I'll try something different and I'll actually go with a positive vision here in Afton Bain. So we're definitely going to be watching this race very closely. And if you're in Tennessee, if you know people in Tennessee, if you know people near this district, in this district, make sure you just get out the word about these elections, because these off-year elections, these special elections, all rely on people turning out. That's the name of the game. So get out the word, spread the word. We're going to do what we can here to, spread the word about pro-democracy, about candidates about threats to democracy. But it's really now the ball's in your court out there for you to actually kind of put your feet to the pavement and get to work there.
No, I know this is going to sound like it's coming out of left field, but I've been Googling why Troy Nehls was wearing two bandages, a bandage on each hand while Brett was talking. I can't come to a decisive, one conclusion about this. If you're in the chat right now, if you're listening, look it up. Like that clip we played, I can't even it was so bizarre. And that's just their brand of politics now. That is, unfortunately for the country, that is the Republican brand of politics, of the Troy Nehls of the world, right?
Well, more than
the cheap suit and the double bandages on both hands. I mean, it's bizarre, and no pun intended to Don Jr., but we're all just numb to it at this point. Like that's what it feels like. And then you get us screaming from the rooftops up here. And I know the Midas Mighty just cannot stand this for the sake of just the dang country. But boy, are they just weird, man? They're just weird.
But Jordy, that's Troy Nehls sadly at his best right there, because the other photos of him that I've showed in videos is he wears an American flag bow tie with his sleeves cut off of his shirt and a Donald Trump shirt that says never surrender or something like that. And he walks around the halls of Congress with that. Also, rather than just Googling why his hands have those bandages on him, Google why he was fired from the police department in the late 1990s, because it was mishandling of evidence. And he likes to talk about his law enforcement background, but you may want to find out why he got pushed out of the police department while you're doing the bandage research right there. I just want to talk briefly about some international affairs. We cover this extensively on the MeidasTouch Network, so I don't want to be redundant of some of the videos that I've done before. But look, earlier we've talked about Donald Trump pardoning a narco-terrorist, the former president of Honduras, whose interests are antagonistic to the United States, right? Bring those drugs, put him up the gringo's nose. That's a good guy to Donald Trump, right? Also, Donald Trump is helping Xi Jinping of China against who America viewed as its traditional allies in the region, Taiwan and Japan. Xi Jinping called Donald Trump, basically said, look, if you want to have any hope of doing any deals with China, you can't support Taiwan, and you need to tell Japan and their new prime minister Takaishi to stop making threats about China's claims over Taiwan, over the sovereignty of Taiwan. The new prime minister of Japan, Takaishi, said defensively, I mean, from a defensive posture, that is, if China invades Taiwan, Japan may need to get involved. That's all Japan said. And by the way, this prime minister of Japan, very right wing, but that statement, you would say, is that a very controversial thing? I mean, Japan has asserted itself in that region and is a major ally of the U.S. I mean, even though there is this strategic ambiguity that exists with China over the region, that's not far afoul from the position of the United States. That, you know, remember what all the China hawks, these Republicans, used to tell us about, oh, the Democrats are weak of Taiwan. So, I mean, Japan was basically just saying, well, we're going to have to defend Taiwan if China invades. Xi Jinping called Donald Trump, and what did Donald Trump do? Immediately called the new prime minister of Japan, Takaishi, and said, you got to cool it down. Chill out. Don't be saying that about China. So Trump did Xi Jinping's bidding there. And of course, we know Donald Trump doing Putin's bidding against Ukraine. We know definitively now how the U.S. laundered that 28-point Russian plan of surrender. Ukraine asserted itself with its coalition of the willing allies in Europe. And Ukraine sent a delegation to Miami, the situs, the location where the Trump regime conspired with the Russians against Ukraine. Ukraine sent its delegation to go there and say, well, look, we're not backing down. Here's what any peace plan would look like. If you want to talk about a peace plan under the current kind of territorial areas, starting with a ceasefire, we can maybe have that conversation, but that's not what Putin wants. Putin wants all of eastern Ukraine. He wants guarantees that Ukraine will never join NATO or the European Union, and that Ukraine can't have a standing army. And Zelensky's like, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. It was notable the way Witkoff looked. Like, Witkoff looked like a defeated and beaten human being at this meeting. And I just think one of the things that Witkoff is thinking about and is on his mind, and I think this is haunting him, and it's not getting a lot of attention. Which intelligence agency has access to Witkoff's phone and Witkoff's WhatsApp and Witkoff's encrypted messages? By the way, this is why it was a big deal. We started this episode talking about Hegseth. When Hegseth was using Signal with others in the regime to talk about war plans, and people were like, don't do that. It's because there are foreign intelligence services who are hacking into our phones every day, and they have access to this stuff, especially of high-level government officials. And so I think Witkoff is even more worried about, wow, if they got that conversation from likely a Signal chat or wherever it was and leaked it to Bloomberg, holy crap. They have all of my messages. They have all of my phone calls. They've been listening. What else is bugged? What else should I know? And the reality is, it's probably everything. Every email he sent, every text message he sent, everybody he's talked to. I bet you foreign intelligence services have this guy under 24-hour surveillance, and they're videotaping him wherever he goes, photographing him wherever he goes, and they know everything about every one of his movements. So while he's there as well, I think he's thinking about that. Also, he's taken 5 trips to Russia. What else is there out there about this guy? And I think that's an important point that isn't getting enough attention. Brett and Jordy.
It's all a very good point. We're going to be following all these stories both at home and abroad. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. Man, brothers, we covered this a whole lot today. As always, we'll be constantly updating you with reports on our YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/MeidasTouch. Even if you think you're subscribed, go now. Make sure that you are. We do new reports basically on the channel just about every 90 minutes for those who want to check it out. We do this show, the MeidasTouch Podcast, live on the YouTube channel every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It then goes on the MeidasTouch audio feed on the MeidasTouch Podcast, so make sure you're subscribed to that. Anywhere you get audio podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeart, you name it. There are a billion podcast apps. Everyone uses a different one. Go check it out. Just search the MeidasTouch Podcast. You will find it. Also, make sure that you subscribe to our Substack, MeidasPlus.com. On our Substack, we're doing some really fun stuff, including Ron Filipkowski's daily news bulletins, where he recaps all the news of the day. If you're busy, especially, it's like the greatest way to just go through and go, oh, here's what happened today. Oh my God, what the hell? Ron manages to capture like every story, even stories that I've missed. And I think I'm pretty in tune with everything that's going on throughout the day. But the bulletin is such a quick, great, comprehensive way to get all the information. And we do a lot of fun stuff. Ben was live on Substack earlier today. We go live. We do a bunch of exclusive articles from incredible guest contributors. So be sure to check that out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. So grateful for you. And on that note, Jordy, I think it's time to take it away, buddy.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.